Canada, I see you. You guys sending us all the smoke.
All right. All right. So I think we can start now. All right. I'll be sure to drop the link to the mix at the end of the webinar, so stick around for that. But other than that, thank you everyone for joining us today for this amazing webinar. One of the reasons we actually decided to do this webinar was due to a research that I conducted a month ago, just trying to understand the experience of UX professionals right after the UX programs. And that is what really drove me to, sort of create this event to really guide people who are currently taking UX programs or who are already past the UX programs and are just essentially trying to navigate their career path in the UX industry, right? So thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope you are able to derive and get a lot of tips and strategies and advice from our amazing set of panelists. Right, so in terms of our schedule, it's very simple. Of course, we've just gone past the intro. So we're going to have a bit of an intro in terms of what Research Bookmark is. And then we'll go right into the introduction of the speakers, go straight into the main agenda of this session, which is the panel discussion. Right after that, we'll have a Q&A session, and then we'll have some announcements at the end, as well as a close-up. So as per our webinar logistics, everyone will be muted by default. Please use the chat section for comments, shout outs, and general conversations. If you have any questions that you'd like to direct to the speakers, please use the Q&A session, the Q&A portion, just to make sure that your questions are not lost in the chat section, and leverage on the app voting feature in case you find a question that relates to what you're trying to understand, right? So just upvote on any questions so that we can be able to pick on the questions that people want answered the most. And then this event is being recorded and it will be available on the Research Bookmark platform for everyone to watch it. And then please, feel free to tweet or post about this session, and you can use the hashtag #RBKnowledge so that we can be able to repost what you post online. All right, without further much ado, I'm just going to introduce Research Bookmark. I do believe we have some people in the audience who have not interacted with Research Bookmark before. So Research Bookmark is essentially a knowledge hub for UX knowledge for UX professionals at all levels, from aspiring UX professionals all the way to senior UX professionals. And we house different types of resources, from articles, case studies, tools, templates, you name it, right? And our mission is to essentially democratize access to quality UX education for all UX professionals globally. And one of the ways we do that is through a webinar like what we're actually doing today. All right, so without much further ado, I'm going to hand all this mantle over to Yao to introduce the speakers and kick off the panel discussion. Welcome, Yao.
Thank you, Cav. Thank you. We appreciate everyone here. Welcome to the Research Bookmark Nation. It's been a while since we've done a webinar, so I'm really excited to see people flowing in from all over the world. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to the community. As we've been growing, this to be, again, the #1 place to get quality education wherever you are in the world at an affordable price, time, and with quality folks such as these. Today we have 4 amazing speakers, and we're going to conduct a conversation, right? It's less of a question and answer, but more of a conversation that we like to bring people in onto. Make sure you're listening keenly. If you are coming into the industry and you're here because you're learning and you're going through or about to take a program, take notes, write your questions down, connect with these folks on LinkedIn. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves, starting from Rajiv.
Thank you, for the great introduction. And I'm sure Research Bookmark is definitely on the up and up, so that's great to hear. So hey everyone, I'm Rajiv. I'm located right around outside of Washington D.C. I'm wearing a Washington Wizards jersey, not a jersey, a shirt. So I try to rep the local sports teams wherever you are around the world. Hopefully you do the same. But I'm what you call go Nats. There you go. I know some people from DC, so that's great. I'm a career changer. So if I've been working for about 20, almost 2 decades now, but about 10 years ago, I changed my career. So I've, I was in sales and marketing and some other odd and end jobs. What kind of a square peg round hole situation. Didn't think I fit. Made a career decision, to change careers into UX. Went the boot camp route. I went the master's degree route. I probably did everything, all the above. When people have a decision on what to do, I think I did all the above. And so now I do work full time as a lead UX at Freddie Mac, which is a large secondary mortgage market company. If you've heard of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they're based in the U.S. But I also teach UX design in a master's program at Georgetown University, which is again also in Washington D.C. And I founded a Shift UX specifically for people trying to transition careers. So I have a structured guided masterclass, and I help people basically and help place them into different types of jobs. Usually the people that I help are similar to me. Usually they say you're kind of served, you're in the best position to serve the people that you were kind of like. And so many people who come to me have 10, 15 years, or even 5, 10, 15 years of experience trying to change careers. So I'm happy to join today and just talk about my experiences of what I've seen, and interested to hear, what Kevin, Tina, and others have to say as well. I'm here to equally divulge information as well as learn. So I'm happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Great having you. Kevin?
Hey everybody, my name is Kevin, and I'm located in the Bay Area. I see some people repping San Francisco on the West Coast, so shout out to y'all. I'm Kevin, and my background, I've always been in research. My background has been in the sciences, from healthcare, biology, and psychology. And in my free time, I read a bunch of space and physics books. So I'm a science nerd. I never really looked for UX, and UX kind of found me. And when it found me, I was in a place where I didn't really know what to do with my life. And when it found me, I was like, wow, that's the route I want to go. And I've been doing UX for maybe 9 years now. So when it found me, I was self-taught. When I first started, there was not a lot of resources for UX research. So I taught myself. And from what I've learned, I started my own YouTube channel. So like and subscribe. It's always awkward saying that. But yeah, after I've started that YouTube channel, I've got a lot of questions, formed my own resources, started mentoring, and then I realized over the years that all the content that I have created for myself initially could be shared out with everyone else. And so I now also have a masterclass of my own, and people come from all backgrounds, career changers, as Rajiv mentioned, seniors, even UX research managers in my class, which I feel not like I feel like I could also learn from them too, and that's what I'm looking forward to today. Learn from the amazing panelists here and to share some of my experiences. So thank you.
Well, welcome, Kevin. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, let me do it for you. Subscribe to Kevin's channel. Game changer. Game changer. And last but not least, Tina, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. So I'm Tina. I work with Vanguard, one of the top 2 finest investment banking, and I've been in fintech domain for last 3.5 years now. And as Rajiv and Kevin said, I do not have such a good experience. Like I have a decent amount of experience, but whatever I have, I was a software developer, and then I decided the front ending is developing is not for me. I feel more confident when I solve the problems, talk to users, and try to fix things. And when I was exploring this journey, that's when I came across HCI program. So I decided to come from India 5 years back, I moved for my master's program in HCI domain. And then ever since then, like there's no going back from there. I enjoy what I do. And more than that, like being in a fintech domain has given me so much of opportunities and learning experience. So one of the things that I really passionately speaks about is like, the first, if you can follow me on LinkedIn, I speak a lot about the social issues that has been going on in the society, specifically for women, and all those discrimination with respect to inclusivity, accessibility, and stuff. I also share so many resources with respect to UX, but other than that, I also do mentorship where I help people do their transition from other industry to UX, and my specialty is like helping them get the jobs and helping them end to end in the interview process. And other than that, I do a lot of work in terms of like judging competition, speaking series, and also feel free to reach out to me anytime. And I'm like really glad to be part of this panel, to be honest. So thank you so much for inviting me to Research Bookmark.
Appreciate it. We appreciate all of you guys. And she hasn't said it already. Follow Tina on LinkedIn. Make sure you get good content, great content. The reason why I kind of press upon following these folks that we invite is to really get most out of a US learning, you want to be fully kind of submerged in it. And that just comes with the vocabulary that they use on their posts. When you're watching the YouTube, you'll hear, you learn, and your brain assimilates that into new knowledge, right? So make sure you surround yourself with great knowledge, great people as you're making your way into your UX journey. So let's get started. My first question here is around the paths that we all took into UX. And when we ask this question in the past, sometimes we've gone people that UX found, like Kevin, people that have found UX, like Rajiv, and everything in between, Tina, myself, Cavendish, and all. So let's direct this question to Tina first. When we talk about user experience education, right, is there one way that someone can look at it, as far as if you are going into US education and you're looking for schools or boot camps and so forth, what is the best way to enter into this field of education? What do you search for it? How do you find, where do I go first? Do I do a boot camp, or do I start school? How do you make that decision?
So thanks first of all for asking this question. So in my opinion, and I'll share my journey, like when I was looking for something where I can solve the design issue, and I did not know the right terminology back then. And I feel like 5 years back, or even like some years back, this industry was not well known. I would say like the way from last couple of years, I see the transition and people are being aware about it, talking about it. Every now and then people want to like, transition to UX or like be into UI designing or do into research. So one of the core things that I feel which was missing, and that's what I really advocate for, is like you need to understand what is exactly you're looking for. I did my master's in human computer interaction, which is not just pure about like designing, it's not about visualizing, but it is more than like, trying to understand the pain points of not just an application or web application solving problem, but also trying to resolve issues of a product, or it is an issue with respect to how we can change societal issues, how can we change any other issues with respect to AI, virtual reality, and anything with respect to that you see in day-to-day life. So coming to your question, I would say first trying to understand what is exactly you're trying to look for. And in that journey, maybe you can like, reach out to some mentorship. You can like reach out to people who are expert in this domain, and understanding and breaking down that into different bits and pieces, and then going about bootcamp or like certification, or whether you feel like taking a diploma or doing the master. Most often I feel they lack that understanding, and they get into the trap like, okay, I just want to go for a 6 months boot camp, and I would be possibly be able to get a job of 80K or 100K. And that is something that I don't feel comfortable about. So every single time, it's my approach, like first try to understand and do some little bit of more research on your own. And then if you cannot, go reach out to the mentorship. And like people like Raju or Kevin, I see there's a lot of content out there available in the market where you all you need to do is like, approach and do some digging. So I know I didn't answer the question in a simple way, but just to be honest about it, like I feel doing a little bit of research and then reaching out to the mentors first, and then deciding big decisions, because it does not just affect your finances, but also it's a big commitment in its own way. So does that mean?
You brought up a really good point there. On first, what am I trying to find out? Maybe about myself, about my future, and so forth, and then doing the research. Kevin, you come from a what I'll call a pioneering background. There weren't a lot of programs when you got in or you found that. So, from your perspective, how does someone start this search even before you graduate from the program? You got to find it. How do we get there?
How can I get a clarification? How do we find the UX program? Is that
How do we find, yeah, the US program you want to start, right? You want to get into, is it a school that I want to go to? Is it a boot camp? Is it a mentorship? How do I know what to choose, what path to choose?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's tiers. Think of it as a user journey. I think the first step is even figuring out that UX is something you want to do. How do you determine UX is something you want to do? I've spoken to many mentees and people wanting to transition, and the reasons range from building more confidence, more stable jobs, finally a job that I can apply my skills at. And then there's some reasons that I've heard where people tell me, oh, it makes more money. And I'm like, sure, we got to pay the bills, but that's not going to get you very far. And it's not going to, you're not going to stick with it for very long too. So that goes back to Tina's point. Like, why do you want to do this? And what are you looking for? So let's say that you figured out UX is where you want to go. I recommend probably starting with a lot of the free resources first. There's so much out there, and there's a lot of paid stuff too. There's nothing wrong with paid. I think the difficulty of the free stuff is there's a lot of it, and that's great, but it's not curated. The benefit of a program is that there is a curated kind of path. So make sure to take a look at the curriculum, take a look at what's covered in that program, and get feedback, get reviews from people who've gone through it. Talk to people who have gone through it. Do they recommend it? And really, not every program is made for everybody. Not every style is going to be fit for everybody. So do some research. Tell them, if you get the opportunity to tell them, hey, this is where I'm at now. And if they try to market you and sell you right away, that's probably not the right program. If they take the time to understand where you're at and how to get you from point A to point B, that's probably a program you want to look into more. So that's how I would kind of consider your decision making.
Well, great point. And kind of for those folks that are on the call that are just getting into this, Kevin just pulled us into UX land. He talked about a journey, right? So take it as you take a user journey, which was really, really UX like. Again, very compelling answers. Make sure you're taking note and asking question. Rajiv, how about you? How do you determine what path to take?
Yeah, for me, everything that's been said so far is absolutely spot on in terms of like, it starts with self-reflection, the reasoning behind why you need to really have a heartfelt reason that's not just money based. No money. If you say like I want to do it for the money, that, like Kevin said, that only gets you so far. But then when you enter the field, you're gonna burn out. You're gonna have potentially mental health issues. You're gonna be in a field that you didn't really want to be in. So I think part of the self-reflection, the beginning of figuring out the reasoning why you need to go in is figure out what's the best way that you learn. Because when I've talked to a lot of people, some people have, they're like, I'm going to go, I'm going to be self-taught. And I'm not saying don't go the self-taught route. There are some people who can do it better than others, and sometimes some people can't. Can you hold yourself accountable? Can you put yourself on your own path? Can you create a learning plan for yourself and create deadlines? For some people, they can, and it's easier for them. Some people try it and they realize that they can't, and they're like, okay, I need some structure, something to hold me accountable, someone to kind of handheld guidance, someone to tell me, hey, is this right? I read this on an article here, but then on LinkedIn, someone else said this. So absolutely, I agree that you need to go with the free resources first. The end result of that is that you might end up a little bit more confused, but not in a bad way. It's probably gonna be like, okay, I see all this information. I kind of feel like I need to go into maybe this path, but I still have a lot of questions, and that's okay. But knowing how you learn best, like for me, I was like, I need someone to basically tell me what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and be there when I need, when I need someone, that kind of thing. So like everyone, there's not one right way or wrong way, but knowing how you learn and what kind of structure and accountability that you need will lead you down the path of like, do I want something extremely structured with mentorship all the way from the beginning to the end, self-taught with maybe working with a mentor, or like somewhere in between? And so there's no right answer and no right boot camp, but there is going to be a right way to learn that's structured for you that might work out. So I think that's something that's important to know.
Now, to touch upon the who am I and how do I learn a bit, for me, I knew that though I lean towards self learning because I like discovery and I like a little mess while that's happening. But I know I needed a foundation that justifies what you just done, because I realize in this world people are going to ask you maybe where that knowledge came from, and I like to get to the root, the bottom of stuff. And for me, that's why I chose to go the path that I went through, a master's program way back then. Kevin already touched up on this, so I'm going to go to Rajiv again first on this question. And if we are in this user journey, I'm starting from before the program, and then we're going to get into in and then outside of a program. So my second question, Rajiv, is what are some telltale signs of a good program? What would you identify, maybe whether it be a coach, a mentor, a school? What are some telltale signs that this is a positive place for me, a place where I can gain the knowledge that I want? What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's gonna to me it's gonna vary per program, because some people like high touch programs and some people may not like as much. But I will say, let's put curriculum aside, because that can go down a whole path in terms of like, is it just like pardon my language, but a half-assed curriculum, yeah, or is it just kind of something that's kind of cobbled together, or is it something that's actually potentially credentialed and there are actual success stories? And I don't mean the 1% success stories out of the thousands of students that have come and that are being displayed to you. I mean, like, what was the good and the bad about the program? Of course, accountability, and it's. I think when you're in the program, you'll know very quickly in the beginning whether this is probably for you. So I feel like you need to know kind of what you want out of the program, get that understanding from whoever you're speaking with. Like Tina and Kevin said, you need to you need to make sure that you're going to be kind of getting from point A to point B in a way that you kind of feel confident that you're going to reach there. So it's at some point, though, you do need to, and this is where sometimes an analysis paralysis will kind of do you in, because you want to make the perfect decision. And as UX people, we're guilty of trying to finding the perfect decision. So what happens is you just start learning and like, let me learn a million different free courses and then never make an actual decision on what I'm going to do with it. So it's it's a balancing act in terms of like, know enough information that you can confidently at least give something a shot, and you'll know kind of quickly, if you know what you want in the from the outcome, you're gonna know kind of hopefully early on whether it's kind of right for you or not. So just don't make sure you don't get into something where you're kind of hooked in and you're on the loop for like a huge sum of money and you kind of and you regret it. So that's my only word of advice there.
How about you, Tina?
So for me, I personally think um, you need to understand first that, okay, this is what you want to do. And once you are enrolled to the program, accountability is something that I feel it's super important to me. As in, at the end of the day, when you are talking about like, I want to do this program, and after the result should be either I get a job or I become an expert in this domain, or I have some sort of like a program for myself that I can teach others. And you need to know the end goal and end results, right? So if you are able to achieve that result with the help of anything, whether it's a curriculum or is the additional help in terms of like coach or a mentor that are checking you at every point of time and making sure that you're having a progress, and that progress leads you to the end result in a certain way where you are industry expert. Because at the end of the day, for me, you're not going to work for yourself, you're going to work for betterment of the future in terms of like, it can be a company, it can be a product, or it can be your own stuff, anything which is giving you some sort of a revenue. So at the as long as you're able to meet that, it can be, the program is not a matter, it's about the accountability from at the so that is something that I would say the best program, where they don't leave you straining and you have a uniqueness where you can stand out in the crowd when you're applying for a job or when you're like looking for a new change in your industry.
I like that. So you both mentioned things around credibility and self accountability going in this journey. So now we are in a program, and I'm going to direct this question to Kevin. I teach in a master's program right now. I actually graduated from that program. I was their first student. I've been teaching for the last 5 years. One thing, and I'm currently teaching intro to UX research. The interesting thing about that is these are 8-week courses. Some of them are longer, and it's a 15-month program. The reason why I mentioned that is I have to be clear to my students that you are not going to learn everything about user experience research in this course. I'm going to expose you to the fundamentals, and you need to dive in. So right there is where my question lies. When it comes to the self accountability, what can someone or people are in programs do to bolster up their learning, to extend their learning? Because we know you can only get so much with 2 or 3 hours a week of live lesson. How can I surround myself? What can I do, Kevin, to make sure the money that I paid and the program that I'm going through is worth it?
Yeah. First of all, that's an awesome honor to be one of the first graduates and now teaching. So kudos to you, man. What can you do when you learn? And I learned this is hard way when I tried to transition into UX. I told my job interviewers that I took these courses. I know this stuff, but no one cares. You gotta show. So you could learn and learn from books, but UX is an applied practice. UX is not just a job, it's not just a career, it's a way of thinking and problem solving. You can't be good at it without doing it. So my philosophy, if you could take something away, is show rather than tell. And that comes from, taking what you've learned and diving deeper, like Yao said, working on real projects and getting feedback. Because I worked on projects myself, but I didn't know if I was doing it right or not. So you got to work on real projects, get practice, and get feedback. That trumps reading the books all day. So that would be my piece of advice there.
Sure, not tell, and is an applicative based science. You have to apply to be able to learn that. That's a really great line. Rajiv, you also teach in a program. So I'm going to go with you this question. What can your students do, other students in other programs in the world, do to give themselves a chance?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off of Kevin. It was such a great point, because this is probably the single hardest mental hurdle to overcome. When we think of learning, the first thing that we think of is probably like a book or a course or something else. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we have to learn. If you know nothing about a subject, immerse yourself. Multimodal. Listen to a podcast, read a book, take a course, join a webinar. Right? I mean, there's just a lot of ways to do that. But at the end of the day, the mental hurdle is just, you got to. I have a lot of people coming up to me being like, even who have in my program, even if they did like a capstone or something and they did a whole entire project, they're just like, it's still not. I need to find real project. Can you give me a real project? And then my answer to that is, you have to seek. This is like where you have to almost take your. It's a mental hurdle. It's uncomfortable. You have to basically seek out opportunities. Now, you could do it in a lot of different ways. You could do freelance work. You could volunteer. You could you could reframe existing work that you've done. There's so many ways to do it, but if you don't go and do it and you're worried about doing it the right way, then nothing's ever going to get done. So you have to like go through some pains of doing it yourself, and asking your friend to do the website and just redoing it, and doing research and doing a usability audit, or doing whatever type of research and design that you want to do. Just go and do it. There's absolutely nothing stopping you from doing it, from anything. Now, will that make the difference in terms of, if you're just doing like a quote unquote a mock or a fictional thing? It's, again, more for your own sake and for practice, but it'll also have other effects in terms of opening doors potentially with network effects and meeting people. So there's other benefits of doing that. So I always tell my students, I was like, you have to go out and seek. No one is literally going to come and hand you being like, this is a project that we need you. No, you have to go seek the platforms, seek the contacts, seek the projects, seek the work. If you don't actively do that, people who will basically gain a portfolio and case study of work faster than you will, and will land the job faster than you will. That's the candid answer, but that's what I usually tell them.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. Those who seek shall find. And just to throw a bit of data in there, between now and 2030, 2031, the UX field is going to grow 21%. That's 8% faster than anything growing beside the medical field. And that leaves you with only opportunity. It is not clear, obviously, because we are still formulating what that means. You call them strategists, researcher, designer, product design. The field is changing and is imploding at the same time. And that means that if you stay in a game, you're going to score. Stay in a game, right? Seek and you'll find. So in our journey of going through this panel, this webinar, we started before the program, we got into the program. And what you're really here for is, what do I do after? So here's us going into the next step of the journey. What are some diverse career paths that US professionals can take out of a program? One thing I noticed with the program is, and now that I'm in this part of my career, I tend to agree with it, is starting as a generalist and growing through may be more advantageous than being very acute if you don't come from a design background already, and then trying to go from there. So I'm going to go to Tina with this one. What are some diverse career paths that people can take outside of US program? What can I do with my UX knowledge now?
Definitely. This is a very great question. And I think the way you mentioned, like, this industry is growing so fast, and like every now and then you will see different roles coming up, different names coming up, and which you are like, when I started as a journalist. Like I used to do everything. And now I'm being more specialized as a strategist, where like I do not do a UI designing. And then there are people who work only as a consultant, where they are approached when we required some expertise in those industries, with respect to not just UX, but also the industry that we are working on, such as like a retail or fintech or software services. Then people who we are hiring, like people who are only expert in accessibility. Or we used to have, like when I was working in Citibank, we used to have like a team of only people working for inclusivity, where there are so many things to learn and grow inside, which we are not aware of as a UX designer. So I think in this industry, sky is the limit. And it's not vague to say, because like every now and then when you learn something, there's so many things which I am also not aware of. Like I worked with HP for 6 months as a contractor, and I came across a design where they were designing for the product or the actual device, right? And that is also a part of HCI or a UX industry. So I think there is no such thing that you cannot explore, but few of those things which I am aware of is like, you can be an accessibility expert, you can be a consultant, you can also be a mentor, which is another thing which is super booming in the market, where people are like just applying for a mentorship. You can be a speaker, you can also do a part-time professor or a full-time professor. So I think there's so many different roles. There's no limit to it. It's all about exploring and like trying to understand what excites you. And as one of the things which I said, which Rajiv said, is you need to explore, you need to really go out and make something, to understand what are the things that you are passionate about, and you can make projects out of it, and also possibly have a designation out of it, which can be completely new. But yeah, those are like few of those things you can explore.
Very cool. I mean, you mentioned roles that I didn't even haven't encountered in a while, because different organizations have different needs and they tend to hire and grow that way. Kevin, how about you? What are some of the paths that you see people that come through your program take, or what can they take? What should we be looking at?
I'll give you an example. I have a student who recently took my cohort. He is a designer, and I teach UX research, but he didn't want to become a researcher. He just wanted to be a better designer by learning research. So I can list a couple, like on top of what Tina already mentioned. There's design, strategy, research, writing. You could go into product management. You can go into data science. But a caveat is that a UX program does not guarantee you an automatic into any one of those fields. Like we've been mentioning, you gotta put in the work. You gotta put in the sweat to get into which path you resonate with the most. So and those are the paths you can get into. Another common question is, where do people come from? And that's boundless. I've had English teachers, I've had philosophy. So it is evolving. The history of kind of UX comes from human factors, so like the early days of human factors back in World War II. And since then, it's kind of the titles have evolved from human factors to usability engineering to UX specialists, and now we're trying to figure out the titles for ourselves.
Yeah.
Who knows? In 20 years, it might be called something different.
Yeah, UX, AI master UX. I'm hoping something like that happens. The interesting thing is Kevin mentioned the history and ACI a little bit, and also those paths. One thing to know is everything has experience. Imagine if you built the pyramids and you didn't build a door and you were stuck in. Everyone, architecture. There's a foundation of all these really old science that is experience focused. And it's good to keep in mind that sweat equity is the key to going into all of these paths, as you mentioned. Rajiv, how about you? What are some paths you've seen folks take through your own coaching, through the school, and some paths that, if you can kind of lead us a bit forward, what are you seeing open up in the future?
Yeah, these are all good questions. I'll give a couple of examples of just like what I've seen for some of the people that I've worked with. Again, I see a lot of people that have come from, this is the obvious one, is like a graphic design background, go into kind of product design roles or design heavy roles, and then they upskill and then they do that. I've had teachers who got into UX research. The thing is here, there's, like we said, there's so many there's so many titles. The superpower is being able to see how, like, because Kevin mentioned it before also, is and even Tina, about how UX is just, it's not just like the title and the role, is the way of thinking. And if you can, the superpower is figuring out where you can add value to these types of companies. Because if you can figure that out, it doesn't matter if it's a physical product or a medical device, or if it's a service, or if it's a website, or if it's a software application, or if it's a tool, or if it's in whatever industry that you're in, then you can apply that thinking. Because at the end of the day, there's always going to be people that use stuff, and you just got to figure out, how can it doesn't matter what the name of the role is, but if I do enough research into this industry and know where there's potential needs, I should look into these types of roles. Doesn't matter what it's going to be called, but if I like doing the UX work, it may not even have UX in the title, but who cares? If you really like doing the work, that shouldn't be a barrier. And so what I'm seeing is a lot of different titles of roles. And I made like a LinkedIn post about this. It was like, I made a list of like 25 different titles that I've seen that are actually UX work, but it didn't have a lot of, it didn't even have many of the titles. It was like, it had like, some had research in it, user, it had a design, it had service, it had CX, it had strategy, it had all these other names. And so don't just discount those just because you don't see user or research or UX in it. I think the superpower is understanding how the field of UX and how it can be applied to all the different types of fields, and finding those types of fields. Last thing I'll say, and I know Tina had her hand up, is you're in UX, you're in research. Like, not to be blunt, but you should be researching the hell out of whatever industry that you're going in, and figuring out, if you want to have a fighting chance, you need to understand the industries that you're going to. What are their pain points? What have been the trends? If you want to get into research and UX, you kind of have to know what you're dealing with and where you should and I'll apply that type of things. But I'll stop there because I know there's probably a lot of thoughts on it.
Tina, go ahead.
Thanks, Raju. I didn't want to interrupt you at all, so I just wanted to raise hand. But when you were speaking, there was one thing that came to my mind. Like, when I started my journey, and one of the reason I decided to like switch was UX is not a process for me. It's more of like a change of thoughts and the way I do and think about the prospect solution to any of this problem. So one of the thing, like, and it has also been like talked a lot in Don Norman's 101 design thinking book, which is like, you will start finding and realizing so many issues in your surroundings, and every single time, like, it's basic, like, I'm taking a reference from his book, that whenever I used to open the door, one of the thing, like, okay, why it is opening the way it is opening, or like, why do I see pull instead of push, or other way around. And more and more I explore, it's more of like thinking, it's more of like, how do you start to understand that this is what you want to do. And about the projects, right? We were talking about it. So I did not had an experience when I started to get a jobs or internship. I started to, like, find out problems in the real world and try to fix possible way of solving that same problem. So it was not an actual project that I was working for any client, but it was a passion project that I was like, oh, instead of having button on this side, how about like having the button on right side, and talking to my other peers, like other students, like what are their thoughts on it, and going out on a cafe and talking to people about how they think about this application. So I think it is more of like you thinking about everything in the solution driven strategy, and not think about it from like what really the project looks like or how it things works. And I just thought of sharing that. Thanks, Raju, for having that topic. But that's how you can possibly like, think about and solution and create projects of your own.
Oh, very well done. Right before I go into using some of these questions, I wanted to get a quick answers from you guys on the number one or the top two resources you've relied on this journey. It can be a book. Obviously, it's good to mention The Design of Everyday Things. It's fundamental because your mom can read it, your plumber can read it, they'll get better at the job. Everyone that can read that book will automatically get a sense of experience and doing their work better. The Design of Everyday Things is a fundamental book, right? Nielsen Norman. For me, I'll throw that out. How about you? What are some of the top two sources that you've hooked on your life, or even something you're reading right now that can pertain and can help us in this question? Rajiv, how about you?
To me, it was the two that stick out. Generally speaking, those of you who've heard of Joe Natoli, he came out with a book like in 2015, 2016. I still refer back to it. The reason why is it's called Think First. The reason why I like it so much is because it puts the UX person or the designer or the researcher in a more strategic position, which is how you can influence decisions, how you can influence things being built. And so I think this is an amazing book that you should do, that you should read. It asks all the right questions, and I think it gets kind of to the heart of just like making an impact and influence, because we want to have our voice heard. And when we get to our, when we have a UX job. The second is specific to UX research, and the one that kind of really opened my eyes was Think Like a UX Researcher. And that was, I think there's another volume that just came out too. That one's really good just because it really positions you to, like, again, influence from the qualitative research aspect, because when you enter companies, they're all about data and analytics and numbers and metrics, and it gives a seat at the table to qualitative research, and it empowers a lot of people who are getting into UX research to know that there is value and how to have those conversations. There's so many others, but I'm just going to mention those two.
Think First, Think Like a UX Researcher. How about you, Tina?
I think except for many books, I think one of the book that I personally loved was Don't Make Me Think, and it kind of resonates with how I strategize and how I take design decisions. Is basically, as a human, we already know certain things, and the way I believe is like I do not want to give so much of pressure to my mind, and that book talks simply about that. Like, I do not want to think before I do certain things, because it's a natural instinct that button is supposed to do work of a button, and like if I see a screen, I know that I have to touch it. So I personally like that book, and I'm currently, actually it's on my desk, I'm reading UX Strategy by Jamie Levy. I haven't finished it yet, but it's just continuous learning that how can I possibly strategize and make sure the business grows, especially like also making sure that we focus on the user as well as like a business aspect of it. So starting to read that book by Jamie Levy. But there are so many other books I still have to learn and explore. But those are the two books that I'm currently like passionate about.
Absolutely. Kevin?
Yeah, I agree. Don't Make Me Think is, I think it was the first UX book I've ever read. In the book I've borrowed from the library. I also got a +1 to Rajiv for Think Like a UX Researcher. So now that y'all have these two, I'll add an additional two. Also, yes to Diego for mentioning Articulating Design Decisions. Really good one too. Besides a book, I'll mention a website that I guess is more particular to where the fundamental basis for the UX theories and processes come from. And I think that's Measuring You with Jeff Sorrow and those folks, because they do a lot of kind of the academic, like, here's why you want to run 5 people. Here's why you want to do XYZ. So if you want to nerd out on kind of where some of these processes come from, measuringyou.com, great resource. And the other one, I'll kind of take a detour outside of the UX world and propose the book Inspire by Marty Kagan. This is a caveat. That's a product manager book made for product managers. So I don't think they've really got what UX research means completely in that book, but I think is really important to understand where and how product managers think about where our roles fit in. And that can give you a better idea of where us UXers fit in to kind of that product team. So measuringyou.com and Inspire.
That's gonna make your life a lot easier. Understanding how your product manager thinks is gonna make things much smoother for you in the field. Kyle, how much time do I have? You keep looking at me, so I don't know what do you want? All right, okay, I'm good. Okay. So, um, one of the interesting things about our Q&A is that we never get to answer 2 of them. So too many of them or all of them. So one thing we're gonna do going forward is we're gonna take all this Q&A, throw them on LinkedIn as posts, tag our panels on it, and they can answer in public as they want, so we can get everyone to get involved in that conversation. But I'll just go through a few and kind of start that conversation. Let's see. This one touches up on a question that I had, and we didn't get to go too deep on it. One of the fundamental things about your career, okay, graduating, through a program and wanting to work, is your network, your work family, the people you meet, the people in your cohort leader, your teacher, and so forth. These are people that are a part of your core, your history as a user experience person, and they heavily influence your practice. How does a person starting out in the UX find these contacts? How do you build your network? Because you guys are asking about, I see a lot of questions here on how to get a job, where the job is going to come from next quarter. We don't know, right? Like, there's no magic here. But one thing for sure is the roles that you're going to touch upon, or people that are going to point you in the right direction, are part of your network. So, Kevin, we'll go back to you on this question: is the network? How does someone graduating from a program leverage their network, grow their network?
Great question. Networking. Fun fact. I think it was in a book called Designing Your Life. More than 80% of jobs are never posted. They're filled because of networking. So that should tell you how powerful networking is. But raise your hand if you hate network, or you hated networking like I did, because I was an awkward turtle. But I forced myself, and it was, I think this field of UX had really changed me to come out of my shell too. So meetups, grow, leverage your network, your cohort who you study with, network, friends of friends, ask people to introduce you to places that you're interested in working at, or you just want to learn more about other people's career journeys, like people on this research bookmark attendee list. I'm sure everybody is open to kind of networking and meeting each other. So really get out there. It can be awkward for awkward turtles like me, but it'll get less painful. And you can treat it like a research session, right? You treat it as a research interview. Who, how did you get in? You can do all the questions. You don't even have to do much of the talking. But here's the thing about networking. Don't just do it because you want a job. Networking is for the long term. Even now, I've had people I've known 5 years ago, and we still connect on open jobs. And so we'll share these with each other, and that's why networking is so powerful. So treat it as a long-term relationship, and it's a two-way relationship, not just a one-way relationship. And yeah, so that's my advice there.
That's huge. One of the persons that made the most influence in my U.S. career and continue to do so is actually a gentleman that didn't hire me. But the way he approached that whole relationship conversation to this day, 6, 7 years later, we still communicate, we still talk. I asked about his family and so forth. Kevin said something. The most critical thing about networking, the reason why it feels so hard is because you're going in with a little bit of a phony intention, right? Like maybe I'll get something, maybe I won't. It's a marathon. You're building a family, you're building true relationship and conversation with people, and it's gonna pay off in ways that you don't even understand yet. So keep that in mind. Tina, how about you? The whole network thing. What tips do you have, and so forth?
Definitely. So I am an extrovert. Like when it comes to talking, it just comes naturally, and that's one of the reason I'm in UX. But networking is very important in a way where I feel I never approach people with any intention. I just like talking, and then I build a relationship, whether it's online, whether it's offline. I really want to make sure that even if I'm sending a connection request to anybody in the room, I would make sure I check their profile and write a beautiful message before I send connect request, because I do not want to sound mean, but that's me. That's me in general. But at the same time, I have read so many books, and one of the book which I read recently was Don't Eat Alone, and it talks about networking. It talks about growth and success and all those beautiful things that we want to grow in our life. And it says that if you go with intention, people know people do not have a time, and they do not want to help somebody who is like random. So build a network, talk to them, and then you will see the power of them helping you and them doing something out of their comfort zone or out of their limit. So one of the things which has helped me a lot is like, reaching out without intention, talking and saying two good words, and they will provide you referral. They will help you grow. They will help you reach out to right people. And another thing that you can do is like you can organically like share resources. Like I think most of us which we are doing is sharing free content, or like talking about free resources, or like even sharing like this webinar was free, so like sharing that to your network, and people would want to see more of that, and they will organically be happy to connect with you because they see the intention, they see like how helpful you are. And personally, networking has helped me a lot get so many opportunities and past, and I see great power. So just try to do organic and don't fake it just for your small like benefit for a small time.
Yeah. Rajiv, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to. This is all. It's probably also the hardest part about the entire UX journey is networking, and it's a tough thing to do when you think about how much you might have to do. But kind of actionable advice that you could do is start small, right? If you're afraid to make that connection request, start by joining the UX groups, IXD or others, and there's so many out there. Start by following certain companies that you like or industries, and then eventually start liking some people's posts, making a couple of comments, liking other people's comments. It's like you just have to, like Yao said in the beginning, you have to immerse yourself, and immersion happens kind of over time. It just doesn't happen all at once. So it's do the small things first. Just surround yourself, have your whether it's a social feed or whatever it is, be surrounded by thought leaders, peers, people even outside the industry, and whether it's organizations, whether it's companies, whether it's talent agencies, recruiting companies, whether it's commenting, that is, a way to get started, and it'll probably give you the confidence once you start seeing some more activity to actually start making personal connection requests, and things will happen organically. Like, like Tina and Kevin saying, things will happen organically when you just kind of start. It's the momentum will carry you once you kind of start. So I think that's kind of the key.
No, that's it's a good note to end this, at least this formal kind of conversation that we've been having around, getting into a program, through the program, tips, and then bringing it home with people, because you can't climb anywhere, go up in a company, up and down without people. You're either not doing it well or doing it well, and that's what's going to move. I wish this never ended and we can go on this conversation forever. But we're getting to the time. I know people are a little hungry. So it's midnight. It's 2 a.m. somewhere. Cav is 1:30 in Nairobi. And I'm gonna make my way to pass it on to Cav, but not before I thank our wonderful, wonderful panelists for giving us their time, their attention, their knowledge. This was quite hard to find when I started in UX. Basically impossible to find, really, to have this open conversation where people are just kind of giving you real life advice. They all mentioned their work, their socials. Tina, Kevin with the YouTube. Follow them on LinkedIn. Follow them on LinkedIn. Immerse yourself in good content, good positive content. I'm really, really stoked on this generation of UX leaders that are coming with positive leadership. Instead of kind of putting everything down, which you see a lot of. Don't be part of that. Be part of positive leadership, people that are pushing things forward in a good direction, because it does matter. We are still at the center of this, right? You are user experience yourself. So I'm gonna, say thank you. We are really happy you're here. Research Bookmark thanks you, and pass it on to Cav.
Thank you, Yao. So guys, please don't drop off. There's something that we want to share with you. So if you could just stick around for a few minutes, that would actually be great. So, first and foremost, thank you so much to the speakers for such an amazing session. I've actually learned a lot, even for someone like myself who's been in the industry for a little while. So I really appreciate that. So on to the announcements. The first thing we actually wanted to share is we took the time to kind of work on like a 9-step guide for people who are trying to navigate the UX career path after a UX program. So we're actually going to share that in the chat section. It's a publicly accessible PDF that you can download and just kind of store it in your computers locally, and you can share it with anyone that you know who could actually benefit with this. You can actually use it as a way to connect with people on LinkedIn as well, right? So we actually have a guide that you guys can actually use, so we share that in the chat section. And then the other thing we also wanted to talk about is, so all of these things that we usually do, the webinars and the resources that we're always sharing online, we do house them on the Research Bookmark platform. And to just sort of kind of talk into our mission of democratizing access, we actually have an offer that we're running right now on the platform where you can actually access the Research Bookmark platform for only $1.99. So we have a code that we are having people apply. So the code is going to be dropped on the chat section. The code is RBM23. So uppercase RBM23. And you can use that right? To
$1.99.
Yeah, $1.99.
Guys, she didn't ask me for doing this. This is crazy. This is incredible pricing. And I'm selling it a bit right now, but it is actually incredible pricing. $1.99 for something that used to be $12. I like I've made all kinds of decisions. And this one is definitely one that is showing the openness that Research Bookmark is trying to have in education. So go ahead and jump on that. Incredible.
Yeah, so just use it to subscribe to our monthly plan, and you'll be paying only $1.99 per month, right? So we have the code running for a short period of time. So if you don't have an account on the platform, make sure you do. If you already have an account on the platform and have been looking for reasons to upgrade, this is one of the reasons to upgrade to a paid account for an affordable price, right? And you'll be able to access all the different resources that we're actually offering. The other thing that we also wanted to talk about is we do have a program where we connect UX professionals with organizations that are seeking UX assistance. And it's a way for us to really drive people to gain the real hands-on experience by working on real life projects, right? So we do have a form that we're going to share on the chat section. So you can use that form to apply to our RB Works program. We're already working with 6 organizations, and we've managed to pair a number of UX professionals with those organizations, and we would love to have more people who are really looking for real life projects to work on, and they'd like to gain the hands-on experience to join our program as well, right? So please make sure to, check out for that Google link form on the chat section. Last but not least, we do have a newsletter that we usually send out 3 times a week, and we share a lot of resources there from, tips on different, UX user research topics, different resources that we currently have on the platform. And we also tend to run some polls just to sort of understand what you guys are, trying to look for and what you're trying to learn, right? So we'll also share the link to our Substack on there. So we actually have a Substack newsletter, but we also have one on LinkedIn as well for those who prefer to, join our newsletter on LinkedIn. So please make sure to, subscribe to our newsletters. It's actually free to do that, and you'll actually be getting resources directly into your inbox, right? So last but not least, the other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna share some of the resources from our amazing speakers who've been with us today. There are a lot of different things that are actually doing, and we'd like to avail that to our community. So be on the lookout for that through our social media and our newsletter as well. So that is all I had for today. Yao, do you want to close it out?
There's nothing more for me to say. Again, Research Book Park is here to really open up quality education wherever you are in the world. We know we need more user experience designers in businesses and organizations, and from starting ideas to growing them. And we see a lot of growth, a lot of positive growth coming in the future. So go ahead and take advantage of all of these resources. We will be, if your question didn't get answered, make sure you point to it. We'll be trying to answer them throughout the week and so forth. And see you next time. We know you logged in from far and wide, and we really appreciate that. Have a great, great, great night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, 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 bye.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
The music list. One moment, let me do that. For those asking for the mix, I've dropped the link to the mix in the chat section. Nora, I've taken your email, so I'm going to reach out to you via email, and we can get on a call and kind of talk about what you're looking for.
Nobody wants to leave. Guys, you can't stay in this house. You gotta leave. You gotta party outside.
Alright. I'm going to close out. I'm going to close out the room in 5 seconds. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll see you all next time. In 3, 2, 1.